the first question probably that I will ask is, what are the competitions you are in? So then I could kind of pay attention to that aspect, if ever. So what do we have now? Transport competition. How many do we have in transport? Nobody.
Yes, I will try it.
Francesco, you are in transport, right?
I will try it, but I'm in doubt about my expertise, if is good enough for it, but I would like to try.
Okay, I do understand, but what I'm saying is that you do sit in the transport competition.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Good. So this is one. It's only the only one in a transport.
No, I will also try, but I'm not sure that my experience meets the
Yeah, well, which is
I want to
always the same question, but anyway, you decide to go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one. Now, because according to the competitions, you are in different phases, right? So the transport competition, you will have the 25th, isn't that? The day exams. And you received the file for the case study.
Yes.
And
the written test.
Sorry?
Written test.
Okay, so let me clarify that. It's not a written test in the domain of competence, because you're not supposed to bring competence. Make sense? So what is the difference between a case study where you are not supposed to bring competence and a written test in the domain of competence where you are supposed to bring competence, right? Now, in this file, it's a case study because you are not supposed to bring competence. You are supposed to process the information from the file and to respond from that information. And this is a definition of a case study, right? Now, that your case study has a perfume of transport, perfume, right? And because it's urban mobility, blah, blah, blah. But this is the perfume. So this is one indication that is not a written test in the domain of competence. The other indication is that the evaluation criteria are only communication, right? When you have a written test in the domain, then the evaluation criteria will be substance, knowledge in the substance. So check always, whatever test you have, what are the evaluation criteria? If they say substance, transport, or agriculture, or environment, blah, blah, then it's a written test in the domain of competence, and then you have to come with competence, with knowledge. But if the evaluation criteria is only communication, then it's a case study. But sometimes it's the perfume of transport, sometimes has the perfume of fisheries and blah, blah, but it doesn't matter. It's perfume. It's not knowledge. You see that? Do you understand now the difference? I hope.
Yes.
So what I'm doing now presently for your competition, I'm preparing with my clients a lot this case study that obviously I know by heart. And why? Because it's very heavy, it's very complex, it's a communication of the commission, and therefore you have to have, let's say, an ability to process the file. So by the time you go to the exam, you know the file by heart, and hopefully then you are able on the spot to reorganize the material you have in your head in order to respond to the questions, right? So this is one of the things that I'm doing for the moment. By the way, but yes, yesterday evening I had the training, the masterclass on the case studies, which is exactly the one for the transport. Now, this was yesterday, so if you still want to have the preparation, then obviously you could come in individual session. So then we could go together through your file and prepare not only the file in a logical sense, because you have to understand what you have. You cannot memorize by heart, I don't know how many 40 points you have in the communication. But so this is one, organize, structure the file. And there's another point that we can do together is to guess the topics, right? Guess the questions. So then by guessing the questions, then you could do already a simulation at home. So for example, yesterday I had the individual session with a client in this transport, and we have concluded, after processing the file, we have concluded to about 5 or 6 possible topics for the exam. So now what she does is, she does, according to our discussion, these simulations of exam, right? So this is one thing. Another thing that I do for the same competition or others in the same area will be the CBT, which means verbal, numerical, and abstract, right? So this is another way that I could help you. The way, or what I'm saying to my clients is, do some test, right? Preferably with Orseu, because the quality is better. Do some test and then check the scores you have. If your scores are about 8, I would say you are safe, right? Because even if you have 8, then in the stress of the exam, you go down to 6, you are still safe. Whilst already if you're at 7 and you go down to 5, it's a little bit on the limit. Makes sense? So that is why if my clients have less than 8 as scores in the verbal, numerical, and abstract, then what we do is to do a proper method, a good method, right? Because probably they don't have a good method, and that is why they don't get the good scores, right? It's like running with high heels for the marathon. Obviously, you will not get there, or at least you will not get there in time. Makes sense? So this is another preparation, either in, and mostly this is an individual session, because obviously I have to see what you do, I have to see how you do it, and then I have to, let's say, give you the right methods for the verbal, numerical, and abstract. So this is another way that I could help you. And then there's a third exercise that you have now, which is the MCQ. Now, the MCQ is in the domain of competence. And in order to be able to respond to an MCQ, you need to do a revision of the substance, right? Revision of the substance, which is the revision of the domain of expertise. In this case, it will be transport. So imagine that the preparation for the MCQ is revisiting all the policies in transport, and you could imagine that there are enormous number, but nevertheless, this is the revision of the substance that you need in order to then to respond to the MCQ. Makes sense? And for that, I was proposing a masterclass in the revision for the MCQ, where I give you a structure on how to revise, right? Now, I'm talking mostly about this transport competition, but don't forget that we have the economics competition coming, the internal competition coming, right? So financial competition coming. And whenever you will have an MCQ, that is the response, right? Learn a template for the revision so that you revise your substance in an effective and efficient way. Makes sense? So that's the point I make here. It's not enough to revise, like reading in all directions and trying to memorize, you know, like, no, this is not the point. The point is that to have a good structure. And then I was doing this yesterday or the day before. I have a client who will go for the economics competition. So this is a way to revise for him the economic theories. And obviously he will go for the internal competitions, where he will go to, you know, we had to revise the European Union policies. So both situations demand a structure for the revision, a template for the revision, and then obviously once you have it, then you go and you work on it. And well, I have to tell you that for these competitions, I would say it's a minimum of 50 templates, 50, right? That's the way to revise the substance. So if you read 5 pages or the fiches of the parliament is not enough, right? It's too superficial. It's not enough knowledge. It's not enough substance in the revision that you have done. So here we're in the MCQ, and as usual, you will see there is a masterclass in order to prepare the MCQ. So now we are at the end of September. Probably you will, you can come back in October to, again, the masterclass for the case study, the masterclass for the MCQ, right? So it's all, every month I repeat the masterclasses.
Sorry, I wanted to ask, do you have those master classes also encoded or no?
Yes, absolutely. So go on the website,
okay,
right? And you check the library.
Okay, thank you.
And absolutely you have the, now I was saying that if you can afford, right, it is better a masterclass than a recording. Why? Because in the masterclass you could ask the questions, right? Whilst in the recording, I mean, in theory, I'm very clear, like you see. So in theory, there is no problem to understand. The only, let's say, difficulty is that you cannot ask the question if you didn't get it. Whilst, so it's your, let's say, choice, obviously, because the difference in financial difference is minimal, right? It's 100 compared with 150. So this is not a big difference. The difference is that you will have here interaction, and then I could respond, whilst on the other hand is you listen to. Now, so what we are saying is that, again, in October, I restart the whole cycle, right? With verbal, numerical, and abstract, with the MCQ, with a case study, right? Now, there are other competitions running in the Committee of Regions, and they have situational CBI, right? So if ever I have here some of you in that Committee of Regions internal competition, then know that I'm doing the preparation for the situational CBI, and I'm doing it in individual sessions because there are not enough people to make groups, right, for this purpose. But I just had one just before your session, and you know, as usual, what we have done is learn the file, process the file so that you learn the file, right? So then you know the file really upside down, inside out. So this is the first step, and the second step is anticipate questions, anticipate topics of discussion, because this will be an interview, and then obviously create the responses in advance so that my client will not be surprised in the interview, will be kind of alerted already or aware already in the possible questions. As you could imagine, it's very similar to the preparation for the case study, where first we learn the file and then we do anticipate the questions that could come in the exam, right? So this is another, right? So we are talking about now the economics competitions or the internal competitions or financial competitions. There are two to come, because they will have all of them the same 3 exams, which is CBT, which is verbal, numerical, and abstract, MCQ, which is in the domain of competence, and then case study, which is like the written test, right? Now, what else do I do is obviously when you start a process, right, then we are talking about first rewriting your CV, rewriting your motivation letter, rewriting whatever application documents you have, the 4 questions, for example, of the motivation that you have in the EPSO application, right? And I rewrite this with my clients so that hopefully they have a very good quality application file, right? Now, I'm not, how to say that? I'm not changing the file, right? Once I prepare with my client the CV, the application, the 4 questions of the motivation, these are done once, right? Because you don't change from one exam to another your CV. You don't change your motivation and so on, right? So it's important to have very good application documents, and then you stay with them, right? This is a very important aspect because you don't want at a certain point to have in circulation in the institutions 2 or 3 or 4 how to say that, CVs telling different stories, and then they could land on the desk of the HR, and then it's kind of embarrassing to, you see what I mean? You cannot claim one and the other one. You have to claim one, which is who you are, and this therefore it's one CV. So this is the first thing that we could do to help you. And then probably as a consequence of this coaching session, then we could go on a coaching session for career development, right? So this is a very big question. Where do I go? What is the right path for me? What is the right, I would say, job description, institution, position, I said the level of the position, and so on. So for example, I was having this morning a client, she's 50 something, there she want to, right? And she goes for an 85. Now, as I said, you know, it's not for me to judge, but I just say to her, you should not stop there, right? Because at 51, with the ambition I could see in you, this is not right. And therefore, she said, no, I know it, but it's just that I want to secure first a place. Okay, so we do this competition first, but then, you know, she will come back to have the next roles or the next exams or the next selection processes, because obviously she doesn't want to stop there. Right, so this is a very important session, let's say, of coaching session, which is learn who you are and define, therefore, a career path that responds to who you are, responds to your ambition, responds to your need. Makes sense? So keep that in mind if ever. I would say if ever you question this, but I would say you have to question. You see what I mean? You don't go in your professional life by accident, and then you stay there by habit, and then you end up, and then you say, what did I do? See, so it's very important to get that understanding that you have to decide your professional life, you have to decide your career, jobs, institution, profile, level of the hierarchical level, and so on. And once you have a plan, then you go for the plan, right? You don't just let whoever decide what's happening in your professional life. So this is a session, as I say, career orientation. And then another let's say, type of coaching that I do is for the agencies, let's say European agencies. And then obviously we could repeat the written test, we could repeat the CBT, but at a certain moment in the agencies, you will have an interview, right? Which is a general interview. So obviously, this is another thing that I will prepare. I think I have now on Monday a client. She goes for the a selection process for the agencies, and she is in the phase of the interview. So on Monday, we will do this interview where we cover 2 aspects, which is 1, the soft skills. That means the EPSO competencies. And the second one part, let's say, will be the hard skills, which are the duties, coming from the job description, right? So the duties, the tasks, and so these two parts have to be, right, in the preparation of an interview. So that's another, let's say, service that could support and help you in your selection processes or selection processes. Now, once you are in the institution, let's say, and obviously you don't necessarily think beyond that moment when you entered, be sure that we will talk about I would say how to be a good administrator or a good assistant or a good head of unit, whatever, because it's not enough to be recruited on the place, right? You should be good on the place. So here comes the next coaching, which is the coaching for, how would I call that, performance in the role you have. And obviously I have a lot of clients who, once they pass the competition, then they continue with coaching in professional development, personal development, management development. There are aspects that they would like to, I would say, to improve, and they don't have necessarily, say, an urgency like probably you have to pass a competition, but they have another urgency, which is to be good. So I was having this morning a client, so I accompanied her to become a head of unit. So it was, you know, the selection process similar, I would say, with an EPSO competition. And so then I accompanied her for the last 3 years to be a very good head of unit. And she was indeed, and she is indeed a very good head of unit. And now she just changed the unit, and now we continue to, let's say, work on her personal development, because obviously she would like to be good in this new directorate in the same way as she was good in the previous one. You see, so it's a constant accompanying, accompanying constantly the professional life with very different aspects. So what else? I think that I made the, comment on dit, le tour de la propriété. Maintenant, si vous voulez poser des questions, so I'm happy to clarify things for you.
J'ai une petite question, si vous le permettez, Carmen. Est-ce que vous faites des sessions individuelles en français également ou des sessions groupées en français? Dans les deux langues?
Et en italien et en espagnol et en roumain. Voilà. Donc, si tu veux, tu as 5 possibilités, ça dépend de ce que tu cherches. Non, okay. Parce que, par exemple, tu vois, la grande majorité, c'est anglais, donc voilà, c'est là que je suis. Mais, par exemple, pour l'agence en Alicante, le centre d'évaluation se fait ou en italien, ou en espagnol, ou en anglais, ou en français. Je crois qu'il est encore allemand. Donc voilà, donc quand je prépare mes clients pour ce centre et pour leur système d'évaluation, je dois le faire en 4 langues.
D'accord. Oui,
voilà.
Ok.
Sinon, après, voilà, il y a des gens qui, je me dis maintenant, voilà, la cliente que je vais avoir demain, qui va pour c'est un portugaise, j'imagine qu'elle va choisir le français pour son centre d'évaluation parce que c'est plus proche, blabla. Voilà. Donc, en théorie, je laisse mon client choisir la langue qu'il estime utile, tout en faisant attention quelle est la langue de son entretien, de son examen. Tu vois, parce que bon, même si je me rappelle maintenant d'un client, un ingénieur espagnol, et quand il est venu, il a dit non, je veux que tu me prépares en espagnol parce que mon anglais n'est pas bon. Bon, je dis, Juan, je le fais, mais tu vas avoir tes examens en anglais, donc on ne va pas éviter la difficulté. Et donc, la première séance, je l'ai fait en espagnol, mais ensuite, je dis non, non, pas question. Maintenant, on va en anglais parce que tu dois apprendre les termes, tu dois pouvoir.
Bien sûr,
et tout
se
ça.
familiariser avec eux. Oui.
Et alors c'était mignon comme tout parce qu'il revient de son examen et il dit, tu sais quoi, le jury avait moins bon en anglais que le mien. Alors, je dis, tu vois, je t'avais dit, parce que lui, il avait cette peur que son anglais n'est pas bon. Ben, je dis, voilà, il est bon ton anglais. Enfin, il est assez bon, tu n'es pas engagé pour faire porte-parole, tu es engagé pour faire ingénieur. Alors, bon. Bon, après, voilà, la question du niveau de la langue, ça dépend aussi de quel métier tu fais. Si tu fais finance, bon, on s'en fout que tu n'es pas. Hein? Mais si tu fais porte-parole, alors mon Dieu, on doit travailler sérieusement les langues.
Oui.
Okay, so I'm going back in English because it might be that the others do not follow us. So, good. Other questions? Let's see. Because we are not going to stay here and look at that. On va se regarder comme des chiens en faïence, non? Non.
Carmen, I wanted to ask. Yeah, I wanted to ask. Do you do these sessions in person or it's online?
It's your choice, right?
Okay, so
For example, the session tomorrow will be online because the girl is in Luxembourg. The session on Monday will be online because she wants to simulate the exam. The session of today, they were all in person. So the variety is obviously depending on the client. So if the client thinks, I want to simulate the exam, so I stay online. Okay. Another one say, no, I want to come because you will give me energy if you see you and da-da-da-da-da. I say, okay, so you see, so there is a non-negotiation, but there is a discussion about.
And which side are you in Brussels or?
It's Square Ambiorix, which is
Square Ambiorix. Okay.
So very handy.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So, are we done? So then.
Now, one last question from my side, Carmen. Do you know, by any chance, when will take place the competition AST competition? Do you know if
on finance, you mean?
Finance, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, because there's one on finance that are preparing, right? No, but you see, the point is, and this is what I say to my clients, be happy that they didn't tell you yet, because it means that you can do preparation. You see what I mean? So stay calm and practice. Do your CBT. You should do, obviously, the MCQ, which is the revision of the substance. You should do case studies. My goodness, put 3 months of preparation in it. Good. Ask them to stay there. Don't move. Let me practice.
Okay.
Don't wait for the competition so they hit you in your head and then you have to run like, we say a chicken without a head because you don't know where to prepare. Prepare in advance. In any case, you decided to do the competition. So then prepare. As simple as that. Don't wait for the announcement.